This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
That theme tune's always a lot louder than I think it's going to be, Bob.
It is, but it's very cheery, isn't it?
It is.
It gets me going. It's about the only exercise I get, actually, dancing to the theme tune.
Do you know what? I'm not bored of it after 116 episodes either.
No, I'm not. That's a very good sign, that.
Yeah, it is.
Mind you, how many other people might be bored by it?
Should we keep it? It's done its trial period now.
Yes, I think so. So anyway, it's got the old blood circulating around the system anyway. So here we are, 116.
Yeah. We were just saying we're probably not going to have an episode next week because you're gallivanting.
I'm gallivanting as ever, but yes, we'll have a little week off.
Yes. Have you had a good week so far this week?
Yeah. I mean, well, considering, and here we go again, in with the weather. I mean, there was a time, and you need proof of global warming, or at least, if you don't go along with that, global change, weather changing to some degree. You used to be able to rely on August. Absolutely, I seem to recall. I mean, people would, before COVID and various other things, would guarantee, get their weddings and their celebrations and their garden parties and their whatever they're doing, their barbecues, absolutely guarantee for August, but I haven't been out there. I've been out in the garden once, I think, over the last 3 weeks.
I put the bins out last night.
Oh,
that's as close as I got.
That's quite nice. That's always nice to do in clement weather, isn't it? But so it's been a bit of a damp squid. Squib. Yeah, I was going to correct you. You can get a damp squid.
Well, most squids should be damp, really, shouldn't they?
But I don't think many damp squids resemble August.
I don't know.
But what does a squib look like? I don't know. I should know this.
I presume they're not normally meant to be damp.
No.
Because otherwise the phrase wouldn't work, would it?
No. I like to keep my squibs dry.
Yeah, there we go. We've got our episode title already. We're here for another socially distanced episode. You can probably hear if you're listening on the normal podcast that we are indoors. Hello.
Yes, he's across the other side of the room, avoiding me like, I nearly said the plague, which is probably, but avoiding me.
We have no wind noise apart from Mr. Daws in the corner there.
Yes.
No noise of rain, thankfully, but we are our distanced 2 meters apart. You might not be able to see if you're watching on the Patreon video. Hello if you are. But yes, we are. We've measured it.
Absolutely. Well,
there we go.
Congratulations. and onwards. So what about crime? I'm going to get stuck in. I saw a documentary. Now, this is a crime fiction podcast, but occasionally we delve into the world of true crime, and of which there are many podcasts who are doing that. But I saw the most extraordinarily... very moving documentary the other day. It's HBO, but I think it's available on Sky. And it's a two-part documentary made in 2019 called Who Killed Garrett Phillips? And it's been made by the award-winning director and producer Liz Garbus. A quick synopsis. On October the 24th, 2011, 12-year-old Garrett Phillips was murdered in his home in Potsdam, a small town in upstate New York. Police quickly suspected Oral Nick Hillary, a Jamaican man in the mostly white community who was a soccer coach at Clarkston University and the ex-boyfriend of Garrett's mother, Tandy Cyrus. The documentary chronicles the years following the murder, including the interrogation, arrest and trial for second-degree murder of Nick Hillary, the prime suspect. He opted to be tried by a judge and was acquitted. In the course of the trial, it is revealed that Public State Prosecutor Mary E. Rain withheld exculpatory evidence from the defence. This and additional instances of professional misconduct led to Rain being banned for 2 years after practising law. The film premiered in June 20th, 2019. And it is another one of these documentaries which look into the American justice system and leave you just so shocked. And in this particular case, at the clear and blatant racism that was exhibited in the arrest, interrogation and subsequent treatment of this man who proved to be completely innocent. And as you follow the documentary, you become very aware that Hillary is an intelligent man, a university coach, soccer coach, an ex-player himself, and what he went through at the hands of the Potsdam Police and Justice Department is truly appalling. And yet we've seen it again and again and again, and this is a situation which is all too prevalent in the politics of the United States. I say at the moment it probably always has been, but it seems to be very, very thankfully to the forefront of most people's minds. So I can't recommend this enough, really, because it is a fascinating documentary, a sad and tragic documentary about this 12-year-old boy, but the subsequent investigation and the way that this documentary has been put together is quite extraordinary. So please watch it if you can. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
So HBO, did you say?
It's been made by HBO, but it's been shown on Sky Crime.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's in the UK, and I don't know what platforms around the world for our friends listening in Tonga and Bali. So,
But while we're going worldwide, I was going to say something I had seen is that there's a new Death on the Nile film, which has been delayed.
Oh,
for
because of yes.
Well, yeah, it's actually meant to be released. I'll go into that.
It must be a Branagh. Is it a Branagh? Is Branagh doing it?
It's Kenneth Branagh. He is directing it. He is also starring in it. Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
He can also tap. He did The Entertainer a couple of years ago.
Well,
so,
there we go.
Oh yes, as I used to say about the late great Roy Castle, is there no end to his talent? And for both of those men, no.
I'm not sure he would have been a great Hercule Poirot though.
Roy Castle.
Yeah.
As Hercule Poirot, I can see they could just do anything. Record breaker.
I can't see Hercule Poirot with a trumpet.
That's well, no, it would actually mess up his wax moustache terribly, would it? I mean, mind you, John Malkovich didn't have a wax moustache, did he?
No, that's
and
true.
That was he just dumped that, and he had a beard. He had a full set. He had the full navy set.
I liked it though.
I liked it.
thought it was
I
good.
liked it. I didn't judge it entirely on his facial hair.
No, probably best not to. But the new Death on the Nile, out later this year in October, stars Kenneth Branagh and Tom Bateman, as well as Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Ali Fazal, Dawn French, Gal, either Godot or Gadot, the Israeli actress. I've only ever seen her name written down. I've never heard it.
Is it Waiting for Gadot
Something like that.
or Waiting for Gadot?
I don't know. I've never actually heard anyone say her name, so whichever it is, it's her. Armie Hammer, Rose Leslie, Emma Mackey, Sophie Okonedo, Jennifer Saunders, and Tisha Wright. I love the fact that Death on the Nile, we've got French and Saunders in it.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love that.
Yes, I look to see their version of it, which will be quite interesting. Sophie Okonedo, she's a wonderful actress. So it's a great cast.
It is.
And it's a great story. In fact, BBC Radio 4, I think it was replayed the version that I was in many years ago with Donald Sinden and John Moffat playing Hercule Poirot. So that was on, I think.
From Donald Sinden to French and Saunders.
Directed by the marvellous Enid Williams, who is a great radio director.
Well,
They are. Point of interest, it is available.
well,
I dare say you can probably get it on all good sort of audio. Yes, in fact, I know you can.
yeah, but I wouldn't though.
No, wait for the Ken Branagh.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Marvellous. Everyone's a critic.
It's scheduled for release in the US by 20th Century Studios on October the 23rd this year. Hopefully we can all get into cinemas by then. Principal photography began in September last year. Filming took place at Longcross Studios in England and on location in Egypt, and wrapped a couple of days before Christmas, thankfully. It follows Hercule Poirot, who is on holiday on the Nile, and he sets out to find a murderer linked to a mysterious love triangle. Patrick Doyle is the composer. He's worked on a number of Kenneth Branagh's films.
Well, he's worked on virtually everything he's done in film and theatre.
Yeah. So, Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures under the 20th Century Studios banner. It was meant to be released on December the 20th last year. Not quite sure how they thought they were going to manage that, seeing as they didn't start filming until September, which is why it's been pushed back to October of this year. But very much looking forward to that.
Well, it's a great Agatha Christie, and the setting will be marvellous. No doubt they would have been filming in Karnak, I would have thought. That's where the Ustinov one was done in Karnak, I think. Ancient Thebes.
Look up the trailer, I'll say, on YouTube. Have a look for that. I was actually going to play it as part of this episode, but they would have just pulled the episode off because of copyright and things like that.
Oh, really? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and the last thing you want on YouTube is to be pulled off.
Just have a quick slurp of this.
Yeah, I'll have a mouthful as well. There we go.
Normal service.
Yes.
Shortly. Next.
Something completely unrelated. I saw on Forbes.com this week that Norwegian crime author, who everyone else calls Jo Nesbo, but as I believe is meant to be pronounced Jo Nesbo.
Jo Nesbo.
Or as they say in Newcastle.
That sounds like the Bedfordshire accent. Oh, no, it's Newcastle accent. Geordie.
Yeah.
Have I just ruined your gag?
That's what they call him in Newcastle, Jo Nesbo.
Just ruined his gag. Jo Nesbo.
He earned $5.1 million in book royalties last year.
How much?
$5.1 million.
Oh, poor thing.
Book royalties alone, yeah.
Good grief. I deservedly so, because they're great reads, as we all know. We're
Yep.
great Jo Nesbo fans.
He holds equity worth...
Jo Nesbo!
He holds equity worth $21.5 million, or 190 million NOK, Norwegian kroner, in his two publishing-related companies alone, with additional shareholdings in other investment companies. In Norway, and of course he's Norwegian, high-level summary figures from personal tax returns are a matter of public record. So everybody knows what everybody else earns in Norway.
Something that doesn't happen in the States, I notice.
Yeah, just a bit. We'll get onto that, actually, on the next
I
news
don't mean to
story.
be knocking the United States today at all, because it doesn't really happen in this country either. So I'm just referring into Trump, of course. So.
We will get there in the next news story. That's very much about America, don't worry.
I'm psychically just one step ahead of you this episode. I'm sort of quite stunned.
But Norway has a good level of income tax and charges an annual wealth tax of 0.85% on personal wealth above about $170,000. Jo Nesbo also pens his high-intensity crime novels, as well as playing in a band and writing children's books. But what you may not have known is that he used to be a professional footballer, and he played for the Norwegian champions Molde, but his career was ended by a knee injury at the age of 18.
Is that knee injury?
Knee injury.
Yep. Okay.
In June 2019, he released Knif, which is knife, the 12th book in the Harry Hole detective series. Quickly shot to #1 in Norway and the UK, which played a big part in the bumper year that he had. But in an interview with TV2 last year, he said the money doesn't mean very much anymore after he realised it was enough to live life as he wished. Don't tell your agent that.
No, I sold 2 books yesterday, and I'm not quite at that phase. But you never know. You never know. We've got the weekend coming up. All things could change.
Get that. Yeah, run a discount. Over to you.
Okay, yeah, right, okay. Right, now, I am going to refer now to the Sunday Times Culture magazine, which has a very good crime fiction recommendation and critique. And Joan Smith has recommended several books this week, two of them by friends of Partners in Crime. So let's get stuck in. The first one is a book called Midnight at Malabar House. India's first female detective, Inspector Persis Wadia, features in Vaseem Khan's absorbing new novel. A plum case drops into Persis's lap on New Year's Eve 1949 when she's called to investigate the murder of a well-connected Englishman. This is historical crime fiction at its sharpest, says Joan Smith, set on the brink of independence and during a dramatic period of the subcontinent's history. On the cover, you'll probably actually find a little bit more about it, and I will read it to you because it's a great tale, and Vaseem is a marvellous novelist. As India celebrates the arrival of a momentous new decade, Inspector Persis Wadia, see, I'm doing the Norwegian version now. Inspector Persis Wadia stands vigil in the basement of Malabar House, home to the city's most unwanted unit of police officers. 6 months after joining the force, she remains India's first female police detective, mistrusted, sidelined, and now consigned to the midnight shift. And so, when the phone rings to report the murder of prominent English diplomat Sir James Herriot, the country's most sensational case falls into her lap. As 1950 dawns and India prepares to become the world's largest republic, Persis, accompanied by Scotland Yard criminologist, that should be, Archie Blackfinch, what a great name, Archie Blackfinch, finds herself investigating a case that is becoming more political by the second, navigating a country and society in turmoil. Persis, smart, stubborn, and untested in the crucible of male hostility that surrounds her, must find a way to solve the murder, whatever that is. No one can tell a story like she can, says the Daily Express. One of today's most... Oh, no. Sorry.
I was going to say, who's she?
I've read down into Val McDermid. That's coming shortly. Anne Cleave says, the leading character is the deftly drawn Persis Wadia, the country's first female detective. Vaseem Khan is definitely not a female novelist. He's very much a male novelist. She's a wonderful creation, and this is hugely enjoyable book, says Anne Cleves, who should know what she's talking about. The Mail on Sunday says this is historical crime fiction at its best, a compelling mix of social insight and complex plotting with a thoroughly engaging heroine. A highly promising new series. So well done, Vaseem. That sounds absolutely brilliant. Congratulations. And the name of the book, once again, Midnight at Malabar House, will be available.
It will, on Kobo.
Yes.
I was going to say, I'm amazed that Vass hasn't even mentioned that on Facebook at all, has he?
No,
his new book. You would have thought he would have been shouting from the rooftops about that, but...
Well, he's a very fine and entertaining communicator, but has he? Were you being ironic?
He's been all over Facebook.
Oh, has he?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
You see, I took you at face value there.
It
I haven't spotted it.
No.
Such is my rare use of Facebook.
Well, yeah, I try not to as well. But
Well, it sounds as if he's got a lot to shout about to me.
Yep, sounds like a brilliant book. We heartily recommend you get it from our wonderful sponsors, Kobo. If you haven't used Kobo before, use the promo code CRIME at the checkout and they'll give you 90% off. And if you are an existing Kobo customer, you can use the promo code PARTNERS for 40% off of selected crime fiction books using the code, using the link in the show notes. But you don't need one of their very, very good e-readers. You can just use your tablet or mobile phone and download the free Kobo app for that.
Or use one of their lovely
Or
readers.
use one. By all means do. They're brilliant.
So that's the last word on those e-readers. So, yes, have you got anything to add? I've got another one coming up, but I'm going to keep my powder dry for now and listen to you. Okay.
Well, I mentioned that we had a bit of a story about the US. It's about John Connolly.
Yeah.
He is a Dubliner, an Irishman. He was speaking to the Independent in Ireland. And, of course, his books are set in Maine, the Charlie Parker crime series, and he has a home in Maine.
Not to be mixed up with Michael Connolly.
No. Yes.
No, I didn't need to point that out because people will know,
yes.
and certainly not to be mistaken for Billy.
No.
Continue.
But he says the US is deeply depressing. I'm not sure I want to visit anymore, despite the fact he has a home there. He said he was promoting his book The Dirty South, which is the 18th in the Charlie Parker series, which began in 1999. But this book is set in 1997, which makes it a sort of prequel to that first book, Every Dead Thing, he released in 1999. The troubled ex-cop Parker, who is still reeling from the murder of his wife and daughter and chasing leads on their killer in Arkansas, finds himself helping an investigation into the horrific murders apparently connected of 3 black girls, say the Independent. Dodgy money, dodgier politics, grift, corruption and plain old ineptitude, not to mention a rich old South family who are dysfunctional to Tennessee Williams levels, stand between Parker and justice for the girls. John said, I could go back to a different Parker, younger, angrier. This is why he wrote it set in 1997. And he says people can now read the other books, especially Every Dead Thing, very differently. In that way, a prequel can actually change the books that come after it. He said, of course, a good thing about writing a long series is you have an awful lot of loyalty from readers, but the disadvantages are that writers can get a bit tired. You're trying to reinvent the wheel each time. It would be easy to simply repeat yourself, and you have to be conscious of not doing that. The Parker novels are, as I say, set in Maine. John Connolly owns a house there, and he said, on doing that, he said, I felt I should have a base in the place I wrote about and pay some taxes. Otherwise, you're kind of just a tourist dabbling in it unless you spend some time there, he says. like me, I guess.
Well, yes. In a well-known tax haven of Rutland.
Yes, that's right. He used to divide his time between Ireland and the US, but has not been over there since last year, in inverted commas, because of everything that's happened. And he's thinking about setting up. He says, I'm not sure it's a society I want to visit anymore, and it's just going to get worse. The middle ground has largely vanished in America. Moderate, reasonable, however they vote. That's become increasingly narrow, and now you have a committed section on the left, a section on the right, just shouting at each other. It's an increasingly fractious society. There's such a high level of violence and gun crime, and the problem of race is still so huge. You look at things like voter suppression. It's deeply depressing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that is an observation that I think the majority of people outside of the States have about the States at the moment, is that it is just kind of splintering into two.
Well, yes, and I think
I'm quite sure how it looks from the inside, obviously, but
well, it seems to be coming up again and again. I mean, I'm sure some Americans will say, "Well, you're a fine bunch to talk."
Well, yeah,
in many ways, you've been a divided nation, and that's something else that is coming up as well. Because we're still in this coronavirus period, and may well be for some considerable time. But we have Brexit coming up. We have all sorts of things, and it was very alarming to see that the government was making provision for army intervention should the Brexit we fall out of Brexit and there's a second spike of coronavirus. So if there's any indication of the times in which our government think we live in, then that is it. So it's terrifying. So to some degree we share some of the things that some of the problems that the United States is going through.
Greatest democracy in the world, ladies and gentlemen. But there we go. You do find that political turmoil does make for good crime fiction. So there is that. At least they're keeping us in business, these tyrants.
Well, and John Connolly is a great novelist, and the Charlie Parker series is terrific. I didn't realise that was going to be a prequel, so that will be very interesting. I think it's a brilliant point that you can actually, as a writer, you have the freedom to, after writing, goodness knows how many books, it must be at least 20 plus of the Charlie Parkers, to actually go back and slightly reinvent the wheel with the knowledge of everything that's to come. So there's a chance. I think that'll be a brilliant book, maybe full of a few surprises and making sense of future novels.
Well, I did write a prequel novella to my Night in Culverhouse series a few years back, and that was really good fun. I got to do it on Jack Culverhouse's first day in CID, and you see some of the roots being laid down for future books, things that you probably wouldn't notice so much if you hadn't read the series, but if you have, they're nice little nods as to what's to come. So they're good fun. I'm with John on that one.
Okay, well maybe I'll give it a go one day. So back to Joan Smith in the Culture magazine, who recommends another firm favourite on Partners in Crime, the marvellous Val McDermid, who one of her reviews I've just read out and given to Vaseem, but never mind, she can reclaim it now. Still Life is published now. I think it was on August the 20th, is the latest novel in Val McDermid's series featuring DCI Karen Peary, who runs a cold case unit in Edinburgh. When a body is pulled from the sea, it turns out that the dead man was the chief suspect in the disappearance of his brother, a high-ranking Scottish civil servant, a decade ago. Set in a Scotland divided by the issue of independence, and with murmurs that a viral pandemic is on its way, it's a reminder that the Peary novels are developing into some of McDermid's best work. I know there are people who will very much agree with that. The Irish Independent says the queen of psychological thrillers. The Literary Review, one of today's most accomplished crime writers, which indeed she is. And this is the bump. The bodies never stay buried forever. On a freezing winter morning, fishermen pull a body from the sea. It is quickly discovered that the dead man was the prime suspect in a decade-old investigation when a prominent civil servant disappeared without trace. DCI Karen Peary was the last detective to review the file and is drawn into a sinister world of betrayal and dark secrets. But Karen is already grappling with another case, one with even more questions and fewer answers. A skeleton has been discovered in an abandoned camper van, and all clues point to a killer who never faced justice. A killer who is still out there. In her search for truth, Karen uncovers a network of lies that has gone unchallenged for years. But lies and secrets can turn deadly when someone is determined to keep them hidden for good. So there we are. Praise for Val McDermid. The Guardian says, brilliant, sensational, unforgettable. And the Daily Mail, it grabs the reader by the throat and never lets go, which is typical of Val's work. So that is her latest still life DCI Karen Peary series. If you're a devotee of Val McDermid, and why would you not be, that's the book to go out and get or download on Kobo.
Lovely. Thank you, by the way, to everybody who has been completely insane and gone and bought Partners in Crime merchandise. We briefly mentioned last week we had our Partners in Crime face masks that we were wearing, and mentioned that you can actually, believe it or not, buy them and help support the podcast. And people have. They've been not only buying masks, they've also been buying T-shirts and mugs and clocks and bags and all sorts of things.
That's my mother for you.
I mean, I'm looking forward to just seeing people walking around in Partners in Crime T-shirts. And
That's brilliant.
That'd be good fun.
Well, thank you very much, all.
Yeah. And one thing I spotted, they've got all sorts. I mean, look, Partners in Crime socks.
You're kidding me.
No, look at those. Beautiful, aren't they?
Well, yeah. Did you model those by any?
I didn't know. No, my legs are much hairier than that.
Yeah.
We should. I think when we do Partners in Crime live next, when we're next allowed to, we should just come fully kitted out, like baseball cap, T-shirt,
Yes.
shorts, socks, the lot.
Make
bags.
Partners in Crime great again.
Yeah, backpacks, everything, absolutely everything. There's Partners in Crime.
It's comforting to know that we've got the merchandising.
Yeah.
Have we got any of those sort of transparent lights that flash that you get in the pantomime? You know, those sort of things?
I don't know. We can have a look.
See
have
if
a
we
look.
can actually get those going.
We need Partners in Crime pop shields as well for the microphones. We've got these nice red ones, which are very much on brand, but
Yes, they are nice. They're pleasant. Yeah, I haven't really appreciated them fully, but they're very pleasant Partners in Crime red. In fact, yours is slightly darker than mine.
mine's a
Was it just
slightly darker red, I think. Yeah,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
well, it's all in the hue and colour of these things.
It's going to have to bleach yours after you've gone home every week. I don't.
Well, he would if he could.
Well, if I could, yeah. Well, if I was allowed to.
He's very careful, ladies and gentlemen, and quite rightly so.
Yes. But no, I don't know when we'll be able to do Partners in Crime live again. We did have a few lined up for this year, but unfortunately, because of various obvious.
Well, I suppose
reasons.
it depends mostly when literary festivals are back in line and bookshops are fully operative. I mean, literary festivals. I suppose they can be socially distanced. One or two I've been to, they don't need social distancing. There was just distancing that was social. But certainly for the bigger ones, yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason why they won't be back in full next year, unless so long as there's no second spike, etc. So yeah, it would be great fun. It would be a bit like listening to those I can remember in the 70s and 80s. They probably still do them, don't they? Those Radio 1 live shows from the Isle of Wight or whatever. They do them from Hyde Park and places like that now, but they used to go on the road show.
Yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
Hey, wow, this week from Blackburn, and all that sort of stuff.
I think it would be more like Gardener's Question Time live.
Yes, it
in
would
terms
be.
of,
Hello, and welcome to Hale Way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going live. So we'll have a little merchandising stool beside us.
I don't know about that. I don't know, maybe,
Can you imagine?
Maybe we should just encourage people to come dressed in the Partners in Crime garb.
Yes. Would you wish that on anyone? I don't know whether I would, but there we are. If
It made me laugh.
If they're willing to do it, they'll be very well received.
Yeah.
From the likes of thee and me. So, how are we doing for time this week?
We're pretty much about there, really. I was gonna wrap up, and got a couple of bits we can do in Arsenic and Old Lace. Yeah. Which, by the way, if you're not a patron, one of the benefits of that is you get access to another episode of Partners in Crime every week. We do Arsenic and Old Lace exclusively. Get my tongue around that one. Exclusively for our patrons. There's a link in the show notes if you want to support us and get lots of extra guff.
So it's going to be interesting because if we're not here next week, we'll be back the following Friday, and that means that schools would have gone back in in England and most of the United Kingdom by then. So that's going to be interesting. I mean, as having two daughters and a son at university who are going back into those educational emporiums, it's interesting times. All my kids and their friends and whatever have been extraordinary through this time. You know, I wrote a little blog about it earlier, which I hope was not too patronising, to say that I think, considering what's gone on, an awful lot of our younger people have behaved with incredible stoicism and adapted to the changed priorities of their lives very well indeed. But going back to school after so many months away is a big thing, and I know it's on everyone's mind. The upside may be for writers. There might be a little bit quieter time during the day to actually do some writing.
There is that.
As opposed to the extended summer holidays of what do we do today. But anyway, wishing all those going back to school and university or whatever they're doing all the very best, and to their parents all the best also. You know, it's the next stage, as they say.
At least I'll have more time to read and watch all the things that we are recommending.
Yes, that would be nice,
So
wouldn't it?
we'll become relevant again.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far.
No.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.